Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be covering the top 5 weapons to be using here in Black Ops Cold War 2023. So with Black Ops Cold War going free to play on PlayStation, there's going to be an influx of a lot of new players and a lot of people coming back to play the game. I figured this is a perfect time to be covering this. I haven't covered this since I believe June of 2022. Keep in mind, these top 5 are going to be my personal favorites. Yours could be completely different, and I'm really curious to hear what you guys are rocking with here in 2023. Make sure you guys go down in the comment section. Let me know your top 5 weapons. So I'm going to be starting with an honorable mention, and that's the FFAR, an extremely fast-firing, aggressive option around the map. It has the AR statistics in the medium range, but it also competes at close range with SMGs just due to the fire rate. An extremely fun choice of weaponry that I think was very underrated. It's not the easiest weapon to use. It definitely falls off a lot at range just due to the recoil pattern, but it's an extremely fast killing weapon. Let's get started here with our attachments. We're going to start with a muzzle where you're going to want the infantry compensator. Like I just said, it has a wild recoil control, especially at range, and you're going to need some attachments to help that cause there. Now, a barrel, you're going to want the 20.3 inch takedown. This is one of the few weapons in this game that I actually run the takedown barrel on. I feel like bullet velocity tends to be more important than effective damage range in this game, but as you can see here, this increases our damage range to 22.6 or 86 meters, whereas let's say we chucked on the Ranger there, we're only at a 12 meter effective damage range. That's not very viable for an assault rifle, so the takedown definitely becomes the best option. Now we're heading down to an underbarrel. Again, for recoil control, you're going to want the field agent grip for both vertical and horizontal recoil control, and it's definitely going to help your cause in the longer ranges, the same as the muzzle. Now, for a magazine, this is one that can be interchanged, but I would definitely avoid the fast mags. You'll find out in just a second as to why. I personally like to run the 44 round mag, but the 38 round mag, the jungle style, or the SAX mag clamp are also good options there. Just avoid the 38 and 44 round fast mags as it takes away too much aim down sight speed. Our last attachment is going to be a stock. We're not running a handle, and that's why those fast mags tend to be a little bit, just like I said, takes away too much aim down sight speed. The Raider stock is what you're going to want here, giving you sprint to fire speed at 30% and 40% at our aim walking speed. So the sprint to fire is the main target here, but it's also important to gain that stray speed in forms of aim walking speed, and this is by far the best build for the weapon. Obviously, there are some certain attachments that can be interchanged, but for my personal preferences, I think you guys should give this one a trial, and that's my honorable mention. Let's get to number 5. Now, at number 5, I'm going to have the AK-47. This used to be higher up my list, but as I played the game more and more, I found that there was better weapons to suit my personal play style. So this is one that I could definitely see fluctuating up and down some people's lists. What I have for this particular build is going to be maximizing the damage range, and bullet velocity to make it more well-rounded, because it kind of does fall off a bit. So we're going to be starting here with a muzzle where I personally like to run the GRU suppressor just because it keeps me off of the minimap, meaning my red dot is not appearing while I'm shooting. There are some other options here like the Spetsnaz compensator that do the job if you don't care about losing a little bit of damage range, you know what I mean? That's what the GRU suppressor does, takes away damage range, bullet velocity. So this is another good option, but personally I do like to stay off the mini map. For the barrel, this is the most important attachment of the build. That's going to be the Spetsnaz 20-inch RPK. So what I want to do here is I want to show you guys the base damage range, and bullet velocity. It's at 38 for the base damage, a 27.93 meter effective damage range, and the bullet velocity is at 596.7. All of those are rather low for a high damage weapon like the AK-47. So by using the RPK barrel, we're increasing everything quite significantly. We're at 41 damage now, 46.98 effective damage range, and then a 947 meter per second bullet velocity. So like I said, this is the most important attachment. Definitely should be running that one. For the underbarrel, because we are running that Spetsnaz RPK barrel, you're going to need to run an underbarrel here, and that's going to be the Spetsnaz grip because it definitely increases the recoil quite a bit. The RPK barrel, the RPK barrel, by increasing the recoil control, it becomes uncontrollable if you don't have the right set of attachments, and the Spetsnaz grip is going to take care of all of that horizontal there. So for a magazine, this one I'm going to call a personal preference. Personally, I don't run one. I find that 30 bullets tends to be enough, but feel free to chuck on whatever you're comfortable with here. For a handle, I'm going with the GRU Elastic Wrap, giving me aim down sight speed along with flinch resistance, and also the ability to drop shot. That's something that people, if you're not aware of, You can't drop shot without particular handles, meaning the GRU elastic wrap, and then I believe the drop shot wrap too. Here are the only two that you can actually drop shot with. Our last attachment is going to be the skeletal stock. For the same reason I had it on the FFAR, the skeletal stock increases your sprint to fire speed, along with increases your overall strafe speeds. So if you were to chuck on a magazine, I would recommend taking off the handle there, and honestly, choose whatever you want. The aim down sight speed isn't all too slow on the AK-47. It's very high damage there. So that's my class setup here. Another one I recommend you go into game with. You're going to find nothing but success. So at number 4, I'm going to have the Krig 6, the zero recoil weapon that is very viable for slower paced players. So if you're a player that likes to kind of sit back on head glitches, watch objectives, watch rotations, this is a very good weapon for you. Picks people off head glitches very easy. We have a great damage range, and then with certain attachments, you can basically have hit scan with the bullet velocity. So this isn't a weapon that you're going to want to run the gunfighter wildcard in order to gain all 8 attachments. Make sure you guys are throwing that on while running this weapon. We're going to be starting here with an optic where it's a preference. Use whatever sight you please. Personally, I like to run the Microflex LED. That's my preferred optic of choice. For muzzle, you want the infantry compensator. This is one of the attachments that's going to help you significantly in the long range by giving you 12% vertical recoil control. For the barrel, you're going to want the 19.7-inch Ranger for 126% added to your bullet velocity. This is the attachment I was referring to that basically gives it hit scan like statistics. 1,553.1 meters per second. That means you're going to be shooting and basically hitting them instantly at all ranges on the map, and our damage range is at 50 meters, which I'm going to be honest, 50 meters is a very long range gunfight. You're rarely ever going to be taking that in multiplayer. So that is a very good statistic that doesn't need to be increased whatsoever. For a body attachment, I like to use the SOF target designator. We have 0 cons to running it, but it's going to increase your visibility while you're aiming down the sights. You're going to see the little dots above the enemy's head much easier. This one can be swapped out for the steady aim laser or the mounted flashlight if you so please. For the underbarrel, you're going to want the field agent grip for even more recoil control. Between this and the muzzle, this is what gives you virtually 0 recoil. For the magazine, another preference here, I personally like to run the 50 round mag, but if you want the fast mag, feel free to do so. Just keep in mind you're going to be sacrificing some aim down sight speed in return. For a handle, airborne elastic wrap, most amount of aim down sight speed here along with flinch resistance and the ability to drop shot. Pretty self-explanatory there. And our last attachment is going to be the Raider stock. Obviously, the same reason I have it on both the AK-47 and FFAR. You need to increase your sprint to fire speed, but also at the same time, we're gaining those stray speeds, which will significantly help you at the longer ranges because your enemies are going to have a hard time hitting you while you're strafing side to side. So at number 3, I have the AK-74U. This was the professional weapon of choice for the SMG players in the Call of Duty League. Now, that doesn't necessarily make it the best weapon because they didn't use any DLCs or anything like that. We'll get to that later on in the video. But as far as launch SMGs, it's by far the best. It's very good at medium range because of the high damage, and at close range, for the similar reasons, has such a high damage profile that it's almost unbeatable at close range in a lot of circumstances. We have very fast aim down sight speed and movement speed. It's just a tank of a weapon. Now we're going to be starting here with a muzzle where you're going to want the muzzle brake 5.45, giving you just a little bit of 4% vertical recoil control. That's all that's really required in my opinion. If you're still struggling, the Spetsnaz compensator is also a good option, but you're going to be sacrificing a bit of horizontal, which may cause a little bit of trouble at range there. For the barrel, we're going to want the VDV reinforced, giving you an increase to your damage range along with 80% to the bullet velocity. And that's honestly where the weapon lacked after they nerfed it. It's still only an 8.99 meter effective damage range, but I feel like that's all that's necessary because it's an SMG. You don't really need to be shooting across the map. Like I said, it's still very viable at medium range. Our bullet velocity is also at a very nice 689.4 meters per second. For an underbarrel, you're going to want the Spetsnaz speed grip, giving you horizontal recoil control along with sprinting move speed, which will help you move around the map quicker, catch people off guard because you're going to be getting places a lot quicker than they're used to. So it's an attachment that can be either the foregrip or speed grip. I suppose it's just going to depend on your personal play style. Now we're skipping over a magazine and we're heading over to the GRU elastic wrap. It's going to give you aim down sight speed, flinch resistance, ability to drop shot. I've covered this attachment enough. I feel like I don't need to go too much farther in depth here. However, if you want to run a magazine, that's the attachment you're going to want to remove. Our last attachment is going to be the skeletal stock. The skeletal stock is going to give you the max amount of sprint to fire speed gain and aim walking speed that is obviously the same reason on the other weapons. It's the best stock you can be running in the game. The skeletal stock and the raider stock are more or less the same thing. You can see our sprint to fire speed is now at 297 milliseconds here. Let's jump over to number 2. At number 2, we have the LC10. This is the most famous weapon on my main channel. I managed to get over 200 kills on Nuketown with this particular class setup, and it's been one of my favorites ever since the LC10 came into the game. Even after all of the nerfs to the weapon, my class has still stood strong. Very low recoil, very fast fire rate, and what's crazy is you can shoot across the map with it due to the low recoil. So we're going to be starting here with a muzzle where I personally like to run the agency suppressor. Because I play very fast paced with this weapon, I like to keep myself off of the mini map, but we also get recoil control as well. If you want, you can go with the compensator here if you don't care about the mini map, or even the sound suppressor if you can control the recoil well. But personally, I like to use the agency suppressor there. We're heading over to a barrel, and personally, I think this is the most important attachment of the build in the 14.5-inch Ranger, giving you 100% added to your bullet velocity. Now, this is going to increase it to 620 meters per second, similar to the AK-74U in that notion, but our effective damage range is still better at 9.52. It is technically a very similar statistic weapon to the AK-74U, but the big difference here is the recoil is much more controllable, and it's going to be much better at range, and we have a much faster fire rate. Like I said, statistically very similar to the AK-74U, but with a faster fire rate. Now we're heading all the way down here to a magazine. This is a preference attachment. Feel free to use whatever it is you're comfortable with. I like the 52-round fast mag just because of how fast I play the game with this weapon. For the handle, we got the airborne elastic wrap. Once again, I'm not going to explain this, but we're getting the most amount of aim down sight speed here. And our last attachment is going to be, once again, the Raider stock for 30% added to your sprint to fire speed and 10% added to your aim walking speed. Now, at number 1, we are going to have the Tech 9. Now, people are going to hate me for spreading this around to the new players, but it is the best weapon in the game still. It's an annoying weapon that never really got nerfed properly, and it can be built in several ways, but the way I have this one built out is going to be for maximizing your damage, along with giving it the full auto ability. So in the muzzle here, you're going to want to level all the way up to get the full auto repeater. That's going to give you 45% to your fire rate. Basically, it's just making it full auto. So as you can see here, 652 rounds per minute, whereas if it's in semi-auto, it's only at 451 rounds per minute. So definitely speeds that up quite a bit. And it also makes it easier to use, in my opinion. For the barrel, you're going to want the 8.1-inch task force, giving you 6% added damage, 50% to your effective damage range, and 75% to the bullet velocity. And it's just going to increase the weapon as a whole. It can be a 3-shot kill if you hit some headshots there. The effective damage range is at 25.4 meters and 451.5 to the bullet velocity. A very well-rounded choice, good at close and medium range. Heading down to an underbarrel, because we are running the task force barrel. The task force barrel does take away recoil control, so we're going to need the underbarrel to be the field agent grip for 6% vertical, and then we got 20% horizontal recoil control. For a magazine, I personally like to run either the 33-round fast mag or the 39-round mag, but it's a preference depending on the map you're playing. It can be swapped out. For a handle, and our last attachment is going to be the airborne elastic wrap, giving you the ability to drop shot, along with that much needed flinch resistance and fastest aim down sight speed. And this is the same build I would use if I were to be using the burst fire repeater. So I guess whatever you're more comfortable with, whether that be the burst or the full auto, you can swap that out. That's definitely deserving of the #1 spot, unfortunately, and it's an absolutely busted weapon. So that right there is going to be my top 5 weapons here in Black Ops Cold War 2023. Once again, make sure to go down in the comment section and let me know what your top 5 weapons are. Make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button as always. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.